This is a classic prime versus prime situation, and red is on roll and thinking of redoubling. This is the kind of problem that I used to get wrong consistently, and now I almost never get wrong, thanks to the formulas and work that I've done in putting together some really good formulas with my teaching partners, Stick and John O'Hagan. Stick has a theory that has really proven to work, and that is that most normal prime versus primes are takes. Well, what constitutes a normal prime versus prime? A normal prime versus prime, you learn by experience that they're the kind of positions that it looks like either party might win. One party might certainly have a big advantage. For example, red here being on roll has a huge advantage. If he can roll a 6, it's game over. But if he doesn't roll a 6, there's a possibility that white could turn this game around and easily become a winner, especially if red rolls some lousy numbers like double 4, double 3, even double 5, and then doesn't roll a 6 next time and starts crashing. It's the kind of game that could go either way. So if red is thinking about doubling, the first thing that I recommend you do in any cube situation is use Woolsey's law. Ask yourself if you think white is going to take or drop. And in this case, because it's a normal prime versus prime, it's probably a take. The acid test, again, is that if you put this into extreme gammon, you'll see that white will win about 30% of the time. And if you're going to win 30% of the time, and if your take point is 21.5, that means you have to be losing gammons a net of 18%. That's your gammons subtracting the gammons that you might win from your opponent. It has to be 18%, because if the gammons are 18% and the price of gammons is 0.5, that's 9. You subtract 9 from 30, you have 21, and that's under 21.5. So you have to have at least 18% gammons. Well, there's no way in the world that this position has a net gammons of 18% for white, because white's going to win some gammons. If he turns the game around, he's certainly going to win 5 or 10 or 15% gammons from red, probably as many as 10 or 12% gammons from red. So even if he loses 20 or 25% gammons, he's still going to be down below that net of 18%. So it's still going to be a take. This still qualifies under Stick's rules of a normal prime versus prime being a take. Now, using Woolsey's law, if you know your opponent is going to take, how do you know when to double? Well, that's where John O'Hagan came in and helped me. John has a formula called O'Hagan's law of market losers. The only reason you're ever going to double, or you should double, when your opponent has a take is if you think you have too many market losers. Well, how many is too many? At a normal match score, according to John, it's a net of 25% market losers. That's 9 out of 36 rolls. Well, do you have that many here? Well, let's see. I have 11 sixes. Right there, there's 11 numbers that I think are market losers. No matter what white rolls, after red rolls a 6, he wouldn't take on the next roll. So those are all market losers. What else would be a market loser? Well, how about a 2-1? Would that lose your market? Probably not. Probably, if you roll a 2-1, white's still taking, because white still has a good chance that red might not get out and he might crash if he doesn't roll a 6 next time. And the net gammons, again, still might not be that bad. He still might have a play for the game. So I'm not sure that you would count 2-1 as a market loser. Even if he dances, if he comes in, it could be pretty bad. But I would think if he dances, it's a take. And we could test that later. So I wouldn't count 2-1 or 4-1 or double ones as market losers. It has to be a 6. So that's 11 market losers. Are there any really bad rolls for red? Sure. Double 4 is horrible. Double 3 is pretty bad. He comes in and switches probably. So those are two really what I would call anti-market losers. Double 5 is not great, but it doesn't destroy the game. He's still got a roll or 2 to roll a 6. So I would say he's probably down to 9, which is right on the edge. So on that basis, maybe it's a double. But remember that between now and the next roll, not only is red going to roll, but white is also going to roll. So if red doesn't roll a 6, which is 25 times, and how many times does white have a really great roll? Probably not very many. Just about every roll that red doesn't roll a 6, he's hitting white. And if white hits red back, that's not so horrible. Red might dance a little bit while white crashes. So that isn't too bad at all. So most of the rolls where red doesn't roll the 6 is not a horrible sequence for red. He's going to have some more time to roll more 6s. So I would still think that on that basis you've got more than your 25% market losers. So I would think this would be a redouble and a take. Let's take a look and see if it's right. Surprisingly, it is right. By the way, you knew I knew it was right. I checked this before I did a teaching video. I just wanted to keep you in suspense a little bit. A really great tool for these is to look at your dice distribution. We can take a look at what red's good and bad rolls are and how good and bad they are very easily. Analyze, dice distribution. I always like to hit 3-ply. And as I showed you, all these are 6s. Every one of these 6s is a big market loser. 2-1 is pretty darn good. It's still a really good roll. So is double 1. 4-1, 3-1. So that's the reason why we probably have a bigger double. These aren't market losers, but they're pretty darn close depending on what white rolls, and it gives red another chance or two to roll a 6. So actually those are, while they're not necessarily market losers, they can be. And again, his only really bad rolls, double 3 and double 4. As I said, double 5, these are not good rolls, the rest of these rolls, but they're not horrible. To really see the next 2 rolls, though, you can go to the details and hit expanded. And now you can see, let's take some of those rolls, like the 2-1. After the 2-1, he's pretty much lost his market most of the time. So I was wrong about that. That's why you have more market losers. 2-1 is pretty good. Double 1 is pretty good. 6-2 hit. Well, these are those rolls with a 6 in it, so those are all market losers. But you can see how you would fare after your roll and your opponent's roll. And sometimes on these other rolls, he's got responses that are pretty good that hurt your equity quite a bit. So dice distribution is a good way to test this out. By the way, here's the initial position. The net gammons are about 15%. The wins for white are over 30%, as I predicted, as Stick predicted in a natural prime versus prime. So with these formulas, we can really get pretty accurate, and the proof is by putting them in the extreme gammon over and over and over again, and we're seldom wrong using both Stick and John's approach. I'll take a little credit for helping both Stick and John put these together and formatting it into a good form and coming up with some of the theory as well. But the key thing here is that, pardon me, we can use our logic. We don't have to be mathematical geniuses like extreme gammon to come up with the right answer. We can use our logic, and we can use some rules of thumb for prime versus prime positions. The same thing is true for holding games, back games, blitzing games, racing games, bearing in, bearing off. We have some rules of logic that and reference positions that we can apply to all of these that help us get to the right answer all the time. We don't have to be incredible mathematical geniuses that are able to estimate all the wins and all the gammons for all these different kinds of positions. I don't think anybody is quite that smart, and I'm not, but I'm able to get the right answer because of these tools. So learn the tools, do some study, do some practice, and you'll get them right every time too. I do. I really virtually get all of these right when it's a prime versus prime. There's a few other kinds of positions that I rarely, if ever, miss. And then there's, of course, those positions that completely baffle me. And I will be using a baffle box for those. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.